I don't think anybody is surprised by this. I think only that people are surprised that they finally have proof of what they already knew, but I think they may have already had proof anyway, that we live in a country that no longer believes that we should have free speech. Others should be able to determine what it is we say and how we say it. And they use the guise of things like misinformation, right? Well, you can't say that. It's misinformation. You can't say that about COVID. It's misinformation. My gosh, you can't have that opinion. Well, I am a medical doctor. Yes, but you're going against our medical doctors. And since we only care about our medical doctors, what you're doing is misinformation or disinformation. Well, I have this story about Hunter Biden's laptop. Well, that's got all the hallmarks of Russian disinformation, but it turns out it had no hallmarks of Russian disinformation. But we had to make sure that story didn't come out because it could have had the hallmarks of disinformation. This is what we're up against. This is what we're seeing. And that's what made today's story from The Intercept unreal, except you totally believe it. Guys, welcome to the show presented by Americans for Prosperity, AmericansForProsperity.org, economic liberty, free speech, all the things I love. I got to move this table a little bit. I know it sounds weird, but and moved. Yeah. Getting ready for Halloween. So like we were outside. The children will come, even though it's kind of rainy here in Indiana. We're hoping they come anyway. This was the story. And I'm not saying that the story doesn't need a level of vetting. Questions could be asked. Of course. Documents show Facebook and Twitter closely collaborating with Department of Homeland Security, FBI, to police disinformation, planning to expand censorship on topics like withdrawal from Afghanistan, origins of COVID, information that undermines trust in financial institutions. There's nothing that I just read to you in that tweet, and I encourage you to go to The Intercept. I don't always agree with The Intercept. The guy who founded it, Glenn Greenwald, I certainly don't agree with him all the time, but he has been excellent on the conversation of free speech and the oppression that so many of us are dealing with from those who think that somehow they're in charge. This brings us to the whole conversation of, for example, Twitter now under the auspices of Elon Musk. And there was this great bit of audio, a question asked to Representative Ro Khanna from California.
That kind of reflection.
Well, let's talk about one of those social media companies. Over the weekend, in response to something that Secretary Hillary Clinton tweeted, Elon Musk tweeted a link to some baseless report about, and here it is, about a relationship potentially or something about Paul Pelosi. He later deleted it, but what does this episode tell us about how he likely intends to manage this platform? What do you take away from this episode?
Well, I hope what Elon Musk will do is create an independent governance structure for Twitter. I agree that we need to remove the many bots on Twitter. That actually is a problem in the conversation. But beyond that, just like CNN doesn't have corporate owners making decisions.
Whoa. Now we need an independent body running Twitter? Elon Musk isn't good enough? Well, of course he's not good enough. Twitter was there to do the job that a certain political party wanted done. And this isn't conspiracy. This isn't wild kind of fantasy stuff. This is what we know for fact. And now that that party doesn't have total control, by the way, I don't know if Elon Musk is a conservative. I don't think he is. I don't know if he's a liberal. I think he's an opportunist. And he's taken advantage of his opportunities very, very well. But if he believes that, hey, you know what, $44 billion is a small price to pay for free speech, good on him. And the progressives are so unbelievably angry about this that now he can't even control it. He can't be near it. He's the enemy. He's the problem. You need these safeguards. What kind of safeguards am I talking about? Well, go back to the story from The Intercept. The emails and documents show close collaboration with Department of Homeland Security and the private sector. You'll know that name Gaddy, I believe it's pronounced Gaddy, because she was fired by Elon Musk last week, right? So her and Parag Agrawal, the CEO, all gone, along with the CFO, gone on that very, very first day. They met monthly with Department of Homeland Security to discuss censorship plans. And a Microsoft exec texted, platforms have got to get comfortable with government. But the story does one better. They provide the text messages. That bottom text message is from Microsoft. Let me get rid of the banner right here so you can read it in full. Was on the call. The coordination is greatly appreciated. Was disappointed the platforms, including us, didn't offer more. We'll get there. And sector leadership had zero questions. We'll get there, and that kind of leadership really helps. Platforms have got to get more comfortable with government. It's really interesting how hesitant they remain. Again, Microsoft included. You should be frightened to your core about that. You should be scared by that. That's the obscenity. It's not about getting closer with government. It's about getting closer with government for a specific purpose. But let's take a step back. When you have corporations in line with, being influenced by, nay, controlled by government, that's the actual dictionary definition of fascism. That's what it is. So when they scream about Republicans being fascists, we're looking at it, staring at it, seeing it with our very own eyes. Yet these are the same people who want to tell you that the political right, they are the threat to democracy. The political right, they're the ones causing all the violence. The political right are the only people guilty of such a thing. This messaging campaign has been something else and something wholly dangerous. If you listen to my radio shows, you know I've been very concerned about violence this election season. Before what happened to Paul Pelosi, which is in and of itself a very strange story. And I'll wait for more reporting, but I don't mind people taking the reporting that's out there, looking at it and saying, wait a second, this doesn't make sense. Does it mean that Paul Pelosi was in a tryst? I have no idea. Does it mean he was really attacked? Well, the man seriously got hurt. But what happened, all of the pieces and all of that reporting, very strange, very awkward. On social media, I said it's very clear we don't have the full story of what's going on here. Did he know the attacker or not? All of it. And what they've decided is you can't even ask a question. Of course you can. And you have to. And you have to push back on these people aggressively. The reason you have to be able to ask questions is exactly what we're seeing in this piece from The Intercept, which, of course, will get read and torn apart and questioned, and we'll be able to prove things and ask questions about things. If you have a cabal, oh my gosh, it really does fit, between big tech and the government saying, well, you can't have people questioning the withdrawal from Afghanistan. The withdrawal from Afghanistan that left 13 U.S. service members killed. We left people behind to die. We left Americans behind to die. That's what Joe Biden did. That's what happened. It's not really deniable. Not really deniable. It's not deniable at all. We can't talk about that. Well, if we can't talk about that, we don't have a society. Remember, I think it was Orwell who said journalism is printing what the other guy doesn't want printed. Everything else is public relations. And that's the damn truth. Look how far they're willing to go. And not only are they doing it in this way, as The Intercept is discussing it, but look at the Pelosi story. You can't say anything. Dude, of course you can say something. It might not be right, but of course you can say something. You can't have an opinion on John Fetterman's health. I can't have an opinion on John Fetterman's health. John Fetterman is not okay. I don't know why that's so hard for people. I was talking about this on Fox News just this weekend.
Tony, I brought up the Fetterman debate. And,
right.
We all saw what took place there. But the one thing that I just can't go past is the concealment of his condition before the primary was over. And now we see what it is. It's not fair to the Democratic voters that they don't have a strong candidate. They're upset.
That's the fault of the Democratic Party. If the Democratic Party hates the voter, how am I supposed to fix this problem? How are you? How are any of us? And we should be clear that it's hate. Senator Bob Casey said that Fetterman won that debate and he's going to be a great senator. Joe Biden said Fetterman is Pennsylvania. But Americans look at this, and it seems to me that Pennsylvanians look at it when you speak to people like radio host Chris DeGaulle in Philadelphia and others, that the Fetterman family doesn't like John Fetterman. The Democratic Party doesn't like John Fetterman. The campaign doesn't like John Fetterman. They certainly don't give a good holy damn about his health at all. It is obscene what we saw in that debate with Dr. Oz. It's obscene that they are allowing him, who is a man who is not okay, which is fine, by the way. You don't have to be okay after a stroke. It's unbelievable that they're running him and still want to talk about the fact that he's okay. He's not okay. To say otherwise is a lie.
Kevin, isn't that true, though? I mean, they're expecting this man to be Superman. I mean, it's just not going to happen, and it's very clear. I mean, it's one thing to disagree with the man's policies, which a lot of voters do, and some people support it. But he didn't even have a proper chance to defend himself because he can't communicate to the American people yet.
Well, listen, Lawrence, we're watching the lieutenant governor recover from this stroke in the public eye, and that's a very difficult thing. But listen, I heard Kathy's voice in your panel in Reading, Pennsylvania, where she said, I've met the lieutenant governor many times. I know what he stands for. I know that he's an intelligent man. He's on the road to recovery. He will be back to near 100% by the time the new Senate is sworn in January. And the voters will be the determining factor whether he goes to Washington. But they know this lieutenant governor. They don't know Dr. Oz.
But Kevin, dear brother,
just from his TV show that he was
hold on one second, because I think this.
Yeah, I was actually taken aback by that one. And, you know, I do this for a living. I'm not usually taken aback by much. He'll be fine. He's on his road to recovery. They have got it set up that you're not even allowed to talk about John Fetterman. You're an ableist. If you do, you're a liar. If you question his cognitive abilities, you're hateful. You're spiteful. You shouldn't be allowed to say anything. Remember, Dr. Oz was a bully on the debate stage, according to Sonny Hostin of The View. Of course, you can talk about these things. As a matter of fact, you have to talk about these things. It's imperative that you do so. How could you live in a society where you can't talk about things? Well, that's a society they want. They want the society where you do not ask questions. You do not talk about things. You do not notice what is happening in real time right in front of you because you don't get to notice. I mean, this is all so incredibly Orwellian. They will tell you what it means and you will just accept that narrative. That's exactly what this Intercept story is showing. The story out of Intercept where they're saying that Facebook and Twitter were collaborating with the Department of Homeland Security to talk about what you can and cannot talk about. Guys, you're not surprised. You're just amazed it took this long for that information to get out there. I encourage you to read the Intercept story yourself and decide for yourselves. Yes, Linda, strokes affect differently. I don't say no. And you've been hearing me say both on air, on TV and on radio, when he's healthy, let him run. But he's not okay right now. And I think his family is absolutely positively abusing him. That's my take. I'm not going to say no. I'm not going to say no to that. I think the man's getting abused because they want the win. They want the rubber stamp more than they want anything else. It's absurd. This union of government and the private sector is a huge threat to our freedom. Wait, I don't know those platforms. Are you saying what? That we shouldn't be using Microsoft and or Google platforms, things like that? Are you sending us into a different direction? I'm not sure where you're going with that one right there. Well, he hasn't been elected to the Senate yet. He's still the lieutenant governor, which is no one seems to care about the work he does there because he wasn't showing up for the job before. I mean, that's very true. He didn't show up for meetings. He didn't show up for a lot of things. It's very clear and very obvious that keeping you silent is the job. Job number one for these people, because if you're talking about things they can't defend, they lose elections. To which I really, really do hope that they lose these elections. The House certainly looks like it's in Republican hands. The Senate, I don't know yet. They all want to talk about only one type of poll when you got to take a look at the amalgam of things and see how it goes together, where the trends are going. And all the trends are for the political right. All of the trends. I don't know if it'll hold, but the trends are there. Guys, I appreciate you being here, and I appreciate the good people at Americans for Prosperity. Oh, look at them right there. Let me do this show, AmericansForProsperity.org. Free speech, economic liberty. Free speech is everything, guys. It's everything. And I will catch you all tomorrow. As for Halloween, just remember, do not give out cigars. That's just weird. Skittles are not candy. Skittles are terrible. And Tootsie Rolls are devil scat. Throw out all Tootsie Rolls immediately. And if you're handing out Tootsie Rolls, stop. Take this time now to remember you're doing a bad thing. You can be better. Candy is chocolate, sometimes with peanut butter. public service announcement from me to you. I'll catch you guys tomorrow. Take care.